Привет из Дубая. С вами передача «Голубь мира», где разбираем крутые навыки. Спрашиваем на английском, отвечаем на русском. Подтягивайте язык или смотрите перевод в тайм-кодах. Let's talk about pleasure and let's start with the definition.
When you work hard, when you have hobby, when you're doing sport or fitness, you need time for recovery, and this could be called like leisure. You could read books, you could watch TV, you could go swim, you could run, and so on. But anyway, you should change the way how you behave and also activity. And there is several related terms. One of them is regime. So you should know when you should lay to the bed, when you should wake up, when you should eat, when you should have rest, and so on. And if you will be full recovered before your next work day, you will be potential. You'll be participate in meetings. You'll be fast in thinking, and maybe you will give good ideas.
And actually, if you would try to quantify the leisure, and especially the time that you need to, recover for a certain for or before certain activities, are there any specific numbers that might be, changing with the age, like the way as we progress?
I don't know. Right now I'm 50, so this is age. I was thinking something would be changed, but nothing. I'm doing the same, but maybe a bit not with such speed. But if you want to change your regime, if you want to have leisure, there are several very funny things you can do. If you have a hobby which connected with adrenaline, it is better to use it. Adrenaline rush will help you. For example, often when I'm tired so much, I suddenly buy a ticket and go somewhere to dive. And if I will take dive safari, for example, Great Barrier Reef in Australia, so I will sleep, eat, and dive, and this is daily routine. So 4 times the same cycle: eat, dive, sleep, and so on. And after first several dives, I feel myself not comfortable. Something is pain in the back, in legs and arms, and there is some thoughts during the dive. But after 4 days, I have completely emptiness in my head, and I have happiness while I dive. It's like flying in the water. There is the same thing you could do. For example, you could make a bungee jumping. I have been jumping in Thailand. It was from height 96 meters, and after this, I was so afraid, and I was so excited that immediately I was like rebooted.
And actually, if we speak about the leisure, obviously, it could be at least divided into two parts, like the way we treat our body and the way we treat our mind. So, whether it's good to combine those type of the activities, or it's better to, maybe distinguish it if possible, and maybe reduce or increase the intensity to every single area as well.
Let's divide our leisure for several types: a long one and short one. For example, if you have a very intensive day, you could go to a new restaurant, you could order another kind of food, or even sit to look how sakura is grossing. I don't know how to say цветет,
Blooming.
flavoring, blooming. Yes, correct, blooming. When I was working in Japan, Japanese people, they working in a very fast way. They move fast, they think fast, and they do not lose any amount of time. And suddenly I was invited to sit to look for sakura blooming, and it was very funny. After several minutes, I have already observed all the tree and have nothing to see, but those people were sitting, I don't know, maybe for 20 or 30 minutes. The same you could do, for example, which I like. You could make basin or sauna or some other water treatment. For example, I don't know how to thalasotherapy. If you know what I mean. So you will be during your day in a suit, then you will unrobe it, and you dive in a swimming pool with your head and stay there for a while. Then fast swimming, then hammam, then you'll go out, and suddenly you will be refreshed at the spot where you should be during meeting or during sitting.
And for the maybe for the cases when we feel like there is a need for us to rest during the day, probably at certain point leisure actually might be turned into the procrastination. While we do believe that we might be trying to do something to like distract ourselves, or maybe take a bit of break, and apparently like there's another thing which might be cascading. So how to understand like whether we really have a urge of just get and rest, or we do have a urge to actually to get distracted from something that we don't want to do, and what to do with it.
There are several ways. One is laziness, another is procrastination, and third one is sublimation. When you give to yourself order, okay, I will do nothing and I am happy with this. This is leisure and this is laziness. When you should do something but you don't want and you hesitate and you have some thought in your head and it is maybe worried you, this is procrastination. So procrastination, this is laziness without permission. And a third one is sublimation. When you start to do something instead of your work. For example, you should write a report or maybe some document or draw a scheme, but suddenly you think that it is a right time to pour, for example, for your flowers and maybe to clean dishes, or I don't know, to do some preparation for another kind of activity.
And there was a one book that I was reading, and it was about one of the masters of like ninjutsu from the clan Iga. So there was an interesting episode. The guy actually there, he went on like a quick rest for 2 hours, and he was like a completely refreshed and like ready to move. So I was wondering like whether it's possible. I don't want to call it like life hacks. Probably it's the way to like it's just like the way to control your body, or maybe the way to find the right time or find the right mode to get into the like the rest mode of your body. And whether it's really exists, or like it's still mystification, and we just should treat ourselves as the normal human and not try to do like any extra activities.
The episode you shown like an example, it could be in real life, and yeah, and I will explain how it works. This is not a life hack, but this is usage of forces of nature. If you will, for example, swim for a shot in a sea or in ocean or in river or in lake, then you will rest somewhere close to the plants and you will sleep for 2 or 3 hours. You will be completely recovered. I have been in autonomous, I don't know how to say, поход, trip.
Probably trip.
I have been in autonomous trip in mountains, in desert, in some islands, and so on. And there were like need to go or to even run for 100 kilometers or even 200 kilometers. And when I am do some hard job in my apartment, usually I am tired after 10 or 11 hours. And if I am going to sleep, I could sleep like for 1 hour and then I am trying to work again and I am not happy with this. But if you will be in mountains with fresh air, if you'll be close to the ocean or sea with this salt water, if you'll be on the fresh, I don't know, fresh emotions, in this case, sometimes you will be rest very well. I have been in Austria and there were a customer of mine who owned a hotel, very fine one. When you go out of your room, you could go to this elevator and wear your skis and all this equipment, and suddenly there is an open door and you suddenly start to glide exactly on the mountain hill. Unbelievable. And then there is, I don't know how to say, подъемник, elevator.
Elevator could be
Like
fine.
elevator, and you will be delivered exactly to these doorsteps. And if you glide for 2-3 times and then you will back and drink 1 or 2 beer and sleep for 1 hour, you will be completely recovered after even long trip. I have been riding there for 2 whole days by car.
There is also was an interesting observation. So we recently we were doing this Tugis project with the team, and what I realized, we actually would stay like till maybe late time because everyone also had like a job or whatever things to do. So what I realized, like the more intense you work before going to bed, actually the better it will be to fall asleep, and you actually find yourself, like trying to put more, like try to really put more load on your plate and try to accomplish more. So whether it's really a good practice or you still should, try to work in more or less the same pace, like speed, or do you need to, like switch into, like, I would say, like a like really accelerate yourself in order to get like a better rest, if it's possible?
You give a good example. If you're working with some thoughts, if you make some calculation, if you consume information, it will help to fall asleep. For example, yesterday I have been finishing my book by number
That's correct.
70 on the skill, and it was very hard because it was I don't know, like for 20 hours in a row. But suddenly I realized that it is already an end, and I will have like 2 weeks rest because I spend not so many times as a book expected, so I will have rest. And suddenly I was smiling by myself, and when I was lying to bed, I fell asleep in a moment. So if you could unload your thoughts on a file, on paper, you will fall asleep. But if you have something unsolved and you will thinking very hard on it, maybe you will be, I don't know how to say, there is a name for it, like unconscious dreams, осознанное сновидение.
Unconscious, yes, that's
Unconscious
correct.
dreams. And sometimes I was using this when I was working for Intel, for Motorola. Was a lack of time, and I should be in regime to deliver result weekly. But I found that I couldn't stop. And I couldn't quit from this regime even after I give my work and it was accepted and I was paid, I was rewarded. Anyway, I was all the night thinking how to improve something, but it is was no need for it.
And if we try to look a bit far in the future, obviously, like if we would try to, think of what should happen with the body in order to, like get fully restored, maybe like in the nearest future, there will be things that would allow us to, like accelerate certain processes so that we can get into the initial or even better shape. So how the future of leisure may look like?
I have been working in Finland. Is it okay to say Finland?
Yes.
Finland, and there is an order from the government, and each person in a work time should rest at least for 2 hours in special capsules or in special beds. When I was working in China, was the same rule, but not from government, but from Huawei company, and they were behaving in very strange way. Everyone was coming 15 minutes prior starting of the job time, then at the middle of the day, we were eating some noodles and so on, and suddenly everyone was taken out, I don't know how to say, like gymnastic mats, гимнастические коврики.
Like like a gym pads or something like that.
Yes, and everyone was falling asleep. Some were sleeping under the table and some above or on the table, like for 30 or 40 minutes, and everyone was working. And sometimes it's helped because when you're going to work at the morning, sometimes you couldn't have a chance to drink a coffee or to wake yourself. But after this small eating time and sleeping time, suddenly you will be recovered and you will be even in good mood.
It actually rings a little bell because when I was working with the Vietnamese people, so they used to actually sleep after lunch right on the table, and for that they would have like a special hoodie so that they could just like completely block out the entire world. And my last question will be how knowing about the leisure could help to make this world a better place.
There is a saying that the best worker, I know how to say in kolkhoz, on the farm, it was a horse, but it couldn't become a chairman. So if you will work a lot, you will lose your health, you will lose your time, you couldn't spend some emotions with your children, with your relatives, and at age of 60 or 65, suddenly you will realize so everything is passed out. There is a good way from this. Maybe you will achieve some salary, but you will spend it for the medical care. But if you will balance your work and life, and you will have a good leisure, you will go to the bed not too late. If you will wake up with birds, and if you will have some moment of happiness, maybe you will be not so ill at the age when it is time to go to grave.
А мы рассмотрели навык отдых и чем он полезен именно вам. Всем мира!